Today's book of the week, How Can I Forgive You? The Courage to Forgive, the Freedom to Not by Dr. Janis Abrahms Spring. Now listen, forgiveness is something that every couple needs to have in their relationship, because if they don't, they're going to struggle for a long period of time. And what I have found is that a lot of couples struggle with this because they didn't experience the practice of forgiveness growing up in their home. It's almost like a foreign concept. Like when they really have to think about it, they're like, wow, did we actually forgive? And they have to actually reflect. And so what I found is that if it's not a practice, if it's not something that you've habitually done, it becomes a struggle when it is needed in your relationship. But if you do not forgive, there's going to be resentment, there's going to be bitterness, you're going to have people who are always holding on to their past, and while one wants to move forward and race into their future, the other person is hanging out in the past, and so it presents a problem. In this particular book, she really covers the 4 areas of forgiveness that are needed to discover. And the reason why I say that is because, if you're a Christian, you go to church, or you're a part of any religious organization, you're taught that forgiveness is the way that God would have us to function. And unfortunately, we're given the principle of forgiveness, but not proper application. And of all the books that I've read, this probably does the most comprehensive job of explaining how to walk it out. And so the first thing that she addresses is something called cheap forgiveness. Now, cheap forgiveness is simply, I've been offended, but you know what? Let's just move on. Let's quickly move on. We don't have to address it. We don't have to deal with it. I forgive you. All right, I never want to talk about it. I never want to deal with it. Let's just move on. The problem with that is when you do that, it doesn't hold the offender accountable for his or her actions, and it's possible that it's bound to happen again. The other piece of it is you've quickly forgiven, but you really haven't forgiven. You've just moved past the issue. You've participated in issue avoidance, but that thing is still resonating on the inside of you and burning you up, and stays within you in your heart and in your mind and your emotions for days, weeks, and possibly years to come. So there's 2 types of personalities in every relationship. There's what is called the peacekeeper and then the peacemaker. The peacekeeper is the one who just wants to keep the peace. They don't want to fight. They don't want to argue. Listen, let's just keep the peace. If it means sweeping the issue under the carpet, then that's what we'll do to avoid conflict. But then you have the peacemaker. The peacemaker also wants peace, but they'll do anything in their power to get the peace that they want, even if it means going to war with their partner. Because for them, they have to deal with the issue now. It doesn't matter that we're in public. It doesn't matter that we're in the 3rd aisle of the supermarket. Because there was an offense, we need to address it now. I don't care who's around. And so the problem with that is it creates more of a problem in that moment than it needs to. When both the peacekeeper and the peacemaker are operating in their extremes, they both lose. But when they come together, they both can win when they meet somewhere in the middle. So the person who operates in cheap forgiveness is an example of the peacekeeper. And when you're a peacekeeper, you emotionally detach yourself from the situation. You don't address these issues, and it's bound to happen again. The cycle never stops. And so cheap forgiveness never works in a relationship. The second thing she talks about is something called the refusal to forgive. Now, I'm sure many of us are familiar with that. Those who keep those grudges, those who remain bitter, those who use every opportunity they can to remind their partner about what they did, not just yesterday, but 10 years ago when we first met. And so they're harboring these emotions and these thoughts in their mind, which is destroying them internally and destroying the relationship, because it creates a huge emotional barrier. And so intimacy is never realized in that relationship because of this huge wedge of unforgiveness. Number 3, she has what is called acceptance. Now, this is transitioning into the type of forgiveness that you actually want. Acceptance is if you're dealing with a partner who's not willing to engage in the process of healing, there's still healing that you can do for yourself. At the end of the day, you're forgiving someone not just for them, but for you, for your own healing, so that you can move on. An example of somebody who's unwilling to participate could be someone who's passed. So they're not here to engage in that process. Or they're a current partner who's just, they're in a mental block. They don't want to participate, but your healing for you is still necessary. So acceptance is something that allows you to move forward. It doesn't let that person off the hook, doesn't justify their behavior, but allows you to heal as you exist in that relationship. The fourth type of forgiveness is the best. It's called genuine forgiveness. And that's when both partners come together and they're willing to engage in conversation to address the issue. There's a level of accountability. There are consequences, I like to say positive consequences, okay, that come as a result of whatever the violation may be, but you've established a foundation moving forward about what will not happen, your non-negotiables. And when both partners are engaged, you can reach true, genuine forgiveness. Your relationship heals, and you'll be in a much better place. So whatever you may be struggling with, no matter what it is, I highly encourage you get this book, How Can I Forgive You, by Dr. Janis Abrahms Spring. Get your copy today. It can really heal not only your life, but your relationship as well.